Ho, 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 ho. Welcome to the group chat with me, Will Perry, and the greatest goal scorer with the first name Alan that I can remember. There was that one guy, was he Shearer at Newcastle?
I was going to go Simonson, but that's a bit before your time.
You'd eat both of those for breakfast. I know that right now. What's it like, Al, being a footballer, by the way, around Christmas? I know it's obviously there are more games probably now than back in your day, but I mean, was it as depressing at the training ground on Christmas Day having your dinner?
Nah, it was great. What we used to probably do is you would train Christmas Eve, have Christmas dinner with the family maybe, and then certainly at Celtic and Villa in my time, because of course it was the winter break when I was at Munich, so we didn't have that. We'd end up going to Villa Park or Celtic Park about 5-6 o'clock at night, have a training session there, depending of course it was home or away, and then straight into the hotel. So it was. I didn't really mind it. It was good. Plus as well, I used to quite like Christmas and New Year because there was almost a more buzz about the fans coming to the game, and everybody was off work, and the expectancy was really good, and you always get funny results around Christmas and New Year because some of the players are doing it right and some of the players are doing it wrong, and it was a good time. I used to like it.
It was like then the whole season's been Christmas and New Year, isn't it, in terms of funny results? I genuinely, Al, and I know I've not been involved in football as long as you, but still for a long, long time, going back to sort of 16, 17, working in it, I can't remember a weirder season in terms of all we've established now, really, not even this season, but just since lockdown and the restart, is that anyone can beat anyone still.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that Liverpool are the exception to that, and they're the ones who are just starting to put down a marker again and get back to where they were last season. I want to talk to you about Manchester United, though, Al, because they, to me, seem, as we've said many times on here, one of the most confusing teams, probably one of the most inconsistent coaches in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. 1 minute, everyone wants him in. The next minute, he's the worst thing since sliced bread. Okay, Manchester United, are they genuinely in the title race? It was a great result. They walloped Leeds 6-2, crying shame that there were no fans there, but it was a big, big result. And you could say that Leeds got Leeds, Bielsa got Bielsa'd, essentially.
Yeah.
But they're third in the table, which means, Al, that they are 5 points off the leaders, Liverpool, with a game in hand. So if they win that, they're 2 points behind. They have to be in it, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. I think the biggest disappointment, actually, is the huge expectancy they had in Europe. Go to Leipzig and get dumped out of Europe, and then the kind of doom and gloom has started because Manchester United want to be in European competition, in the best European competition. So that kind of put them on the back heel a little bit. There's obviously been a problem with the actual staff, the players of Manchester United, who people think are good, who people think are not good enough, and the players who obviously think they're too good for Manchester United. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been juggling the whole lot. But right now, I mean, I think you and I were talking about this, and I'm going back to the 3-1 against West Ham. They got beat by PSG, got beat by Leipzig, but in between times, out with the 0-0 against Man City, which, to be honest, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was quite happy to take.
Yeah.
They're scoring goals, and they look as if they're a Manchester United team that if you genuinely look over there, they're behind you going that way, and you're conceding goals. I mean, I've got to admit, the Leeds game, when everyone's giving it, Leeds will give them a really hard game, etc. Leeds are nowhere near what Manchester United are at the moment. They certainly don't have that kind of quality of player. But at the moment in time, if you're picking a Premier League team, they seem to be going in the right direction. You're picking Liverpool Football Club, and you're definitely picking Manchester United for sure. And maybe throw in Chelsea because they got a good result the other night there. Who did they play? West Ham.
Yeah, it's so hard to pinpoint then why they will go on these runs. And look, it comes back to the initial point, doesn't it? That everyone really can think that they can beat anyone this season, and home and away, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, the fans plays a big part in that as well. They've got a massive game against Leicester. It reminds me of the situation last season with the Champions League where they had to go there and win because Leicester are in really good form, and Leicester having just beaten Tottenham, we didn't really see that one coming in the fashion that they beat Spurs. But essentially, Manchester United have turned it around. You have to take your hats off to them. You know, even as a City fan, and we're chasing their tails. So how do you sort of summarize how they've done that? If it hasn't been a case of Pogba's pulled the finger out and he's gone on a run or whatever because he's not really been playing. So, what about this one? If you took Fernandes out of this team, is it as simple as without Fernandes playing well, Manchester United don't play well?
Yeah, I think it can be that simple at times. There's no question. Collectively, I think they've been brilliant the last couple of times. They're kind of, and I hate using this siege mentality, but you need to have something in the dressing room that everybody genuinely is together. And it seems so simple because surely you would be, but that's not the case all the time. Genuinely not the case. But I do think in the Manchester United sense, and I've said this to people before, I was very, very lucky in my football career. But I played with teams in Celtic and in Aston Villa and in Bayern Munich and obviously with the international team. I don't remember ever having the opportunity to down tools for 60 minutes in a game. I played with football teams that always had to win. Even in training, you always had to win. We didn't have the luxury that maybe, back in the day, I said Hampton would have had, or somebody like that. Who cares if you win or lose? As long as we kind of stay in the division. It was either you better be winning or you're sitting in the stand. And I always, when big teams buy big players or buy players for the football club, Manchester United is not a football club you can go, oh, well, I've made it. You go there and then all of a sudden you have to be better than you were even before you got to Manchester United. So the fact that the players at the moment are doing the right thing seem to be, well, they've been good buys for Man United and they're proving that they're good enough to play for Manchester United. But you're right, you've already said it. The inconsistency that they've had has been astonishing. I mean, astonishing. But in the last 3 or 4 games, they've had it going. But then again, we have to take into consideration, if we think that Leipzig are a European force and PSG are a European force, and just beating the likes of West Ham and Leeds United is making you think that Man United are title favourites, and you're kidding yourself on. They are in there in the title race, but to think they can do what Liverpool are doing at the moment, you have to take into consideration of who they've actually had the results against.
Yeah, and Sheffield United as well, that one where they were behind.
Sorry, 3-2, Sheffield United, I apologise. Yeah. That was one of the ones I was thinking. Now, you can't fault them for going and scoring goals, because that's what United are absolutely on the bullet at the moment in time. The goal scoring just now is looking fantastic. If you score, what was it? Was it 4 at half time against Leeds United?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, the game's
they were 2-0 up in 3 minutes with Scott McTominay, weren't they? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, and who does that? Good teams do that? City used to do it all the time to teams. You should know. You watched more Man City games than certainly I have in terms of, 2-0 up, 3-0 up, game's over. Liverpool do it to you. And if Man United have got that in their arsenal, then there is no way you cannot say that Man United are not in the title race, and should be, especially with the position they're in and a game in hand, and can reduce that to only 2 points to Liverpool at the top.
But then they've also got in their arsenal the ability to lose a game 6-1 at home to Tottenham, haven't they? So I just don't know. What they are. Well, let me ask you this, Al.
All right, okay. Mm-hmm.
Go on. No, well, put this in your answer as well. I was just going to say to you, what in the McInally head do you think that they will be in a situation come April, end of April, beginning of May, like crunch time in the Premier League, or maybe Liverpool have already run away with it by then, where they can be challenging like that? So, for example, have you got them comfortably in the top 4 and being able to, we're saying in the title race now in December before Christmas, but April, May, being able to challenge and really having a pop?
Again, see, going back to our reference to anybody can beat anybody at the moment, and that's how it seems to be, then I'm pushing about to say, they'll definitely be there, because there is that genuine uncertainty. I've already said, I think I went Liverpool, City, United, Chelsea.
You did, yeah.
Spurs, Leicester. I don't think I even had.
Didn't you have Southampton up there as well? I think you had Southampton in
there.
Yeah,
I'd Southampton 7-ish. 7th or 8th. But the bottom line is then I've got to say yes, because I've got Man United. I think Man United will be in the top 4. Even when they were struggling the last couple of weeks and Solskjaer was getting stick, even if he loses his job, it's still Manchester United. They've still got the players there that are expected to win, and I expect them to be in the top 4. And I ain't a Man United fan.
Yeah,
I don't even like some of the players that are at Man United, because I think they're causing too many problems, and they're making Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job really difficult. And at the moment in time, with winning games, that's forgotten about. That's just sometimes what football is. But they will hit a slippery bit again, Manchester United, because defensively there's still questions to be answered. Midfield, I think, is pretty strong. I thought McTominay was magnificent the other day, and he's going to get better. And in Rashford, in Greenwood, and Cavani, they've got goals in the team.
Yeah.
So I expect them to be there or thereabouts. Will they be in a position in April that they think I would probably think they'll be 10 points behind Liverpool when we get to April, because I still think Liverpool, even without Van Dijk, because I said they wouldn't win the Champions League without him, but they could still win the domestic title with him. And I think that'll be the case.
Would you rather be, Al, a fan of Burnley, so several years in the Premier League now, safe? We both said it. There's no way Burnley are going down. Even a couple of weeks ago in the bottom three, and they had those games in hand. Great result against. They've had a great few weeks, haven't they? Winning at Arsenal. He is going to keep them up again. I say it now. It's not even Christmas. But would you rather be a fan of Burnley, where it's kind of, safety? Safety's not sexy anymore, is it, in the Premier League? You can't sell safety fans. But then I'm thinking about Leeds. So it took them a long time to get back. But 16 years later, Leeds are back. They, for me, are probably the most exciting team, exciting, inverted commas, team in the Premier League to watch this season, because you just don't know what you're going to get. Even getting thumped by Manchester United gives them more of an element of mystery. And they will, they're not going to change their style. But would you rather be then that Burnley fan where you're like, look, we're going to stay in the Prem, but we're going to finish 16th, 17th. You're still going to get to watch your team against Manchester United and Arsenal and Liverpool and whatever. Or that Leeds team where you roll the dice and you go for it. I mean, look, Burnley now are only 4 points behind Leeds, and they've got a game in hand, Burnley. So Leeds could get sucked into this mix, despite all the praise that they're getting out.
I'm already a fan of Burnley because they've been in the Premier Division that long, and you and I both live up in the Northwest, and I've done a lot of Burnley games, and it's difficult not to like them.
Yeah.
It's difficult not to like Sean Dyche. It's not difficult not to enjoy his press conferences, and it's dead easy to, because the team go forward. I like a team that goes forward, not this passing across, because eventually the ball has to go forward. You're going to win the game. And they are normally that positive way. Quality-wise, obviously they're not there. I think, what's the expectancy of a Burnley fan? You're right. Do we expect to be in the top six? No chance. Do we expect to be hopefully in the middle? Thereabouts, but we don't expect to be in a relegation battle. Leeds United, I think expectancy with Leeds United, even in this first season, is astronomical. I think Leeds are like, can we get top six? No. Oh, yeah, we can. We really can. And you're like, no, you can't. Can your Jets? and the results are now maybe, when you get pumped by six goals you can see, then you've got to take a step back and go, right, okay, where was our realism? Let's rein it in a little bit, because you've already said, even although I think you said there are 4 points between Burnley, regardless of Burnley's game in hand, 4 points between Burnley and Leeds. They are in a position now where they have to start over the Christmas period and into the middle of January, getting towards the beginning of February, to put themselves in a position where you're not in a relegation battle. Because when you're in and around that point they're at just now, you're in a relegation battle. It's as simple as that. I need to ask you a question, don't I? I've gone round the houses there. Burnley or Leeds? Burnley or Leeds? Burnley or Leeds? Leeds. For the simple reason, I'm going and I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen today.
Yeah. And look out.
Give it to me, Bielsa. Give it to me.
The Leeds fans that I've been speaking to, a lot of them have said, we would absolutely snap both your arms and your legs off just to finish where they are now, 14th. I know that they've got those astronomical, because of the club, because of, going back to the 70s, going back to Reeve, whatever. But if you were to say to them now, you're gonna still play the way that you're playing, but you finish 14th and you stay in the Premier League, they'd absolutely take that, and then get the fans back in the stadium next season, and off you go, Bob's your uncle. Right, Al, in terms of just on Sean Dyche as well, I've heard a few little birdies talking. There have been a few rumours. I mean, it's all been over the media the last few weeks. Sean Dyche, Derby County. I know Sean Dyche, he'll say it himself, I'm sure he said it to you, hasn't been the happiest he's been at Turf Moor in the last few years because of the transfer situation. Let's not forget, right, the guys that he brought in the summer, Will Norris. Okay, with all respect to Will Norris, that is not a marquee signing. He is a young reserve goalkeeper at Wolves who came to Turf Moor as a backup to Peacock Farrell, not even to Pope. And then he's brought in Dale Stephens, who, will scratch around the first team, may play a few games. He's injured at the moment. Didn't break the bank. Yeah, so you can see why Sean's a bit like, how many miracles do you want me to pull off here? If Derby County came knocking, and I'm talking about Derby County having had a takeover, which is apparently imminent. If they get a takeover, you could see why they'd like someone like Sean Dyche. Big stadium, big fan base, big ambition, a club that, is desperate to get out of that league and hasn't done for so many years. Billy Davis has tried, McLaren's tried a number of times. They just can't seem to get out of there. And when they have come up in the past years, they've set an all-time, low record. I'm thinking back to Paul Jewell and Robbie Savage's time there with 11 points, which is still the record in the Prem to date. Could you see that as a fit for Sean Dyche? Would that tempt him, do you think, to leave Turf Moor? Someone eventually is going to tempt him out of Burnley.
Well, I think right away in my head, out with, my thoughts on Sean Dyche, and I actually said to you, I thought he might be the first to leave his post for the simple reason I have never in my time known Sean at Burnley really have something to say publicly about the way the football club was not necessarily being run, but the funds that were being made available to him. Which goes back to your point: how many medicals do you want me to do here? I don't even seem to be shopping in the shops that the teams round about me are in. You know what I mean? I'm properly down the corner shop trying to bring players in that A, will come to Burnley, B, do me a job, and not look for 100 grand a week.
He's in Poundland. He's in Poundland, man. The others in Harrods and Selfridges.
Kind of, absolutely. And even then, would a Selfridges and a Harrods player even want to come to Burnley? I mean, he's got that problem. Geographically, you might think, well, if you're a marquee player playing somewhere in Europe, you'd rather be in London or Birmingham or Manchester or Liverpool, whatever. So regardless, but if I'm trying to think in my head right away when you said that, Will, right, has he got a chance of getting a job in the top six, Sean Dyche? And I'm going to throw Arsenal in there at the moment, being a top club or so-called top club. I know they're struggling under Arteta at the moment. And you think, well, the opportunities for him to get one of those jobs is probably gone now, because the opportunity was there for someone to say, this boy at Burnley's done wicked. We should really give him an opportunity. Not being the case. Not for Manchester United. No. Man City hasn't been available. He's not getting a Liverpool job. Where else is he going to go?
You know what? Arsenal's not far off. Now, I wouldn't have said it 6 months ago. I thought that boat might have sailed. That ship might have sailed.
See, I did say Arsenal. Every time I heard about, flaky Arsenal, and Arsenal don't seem to have an underbelly, and there's too soft. I'm thinking, he's at Burnley right now. He's staring you right in the face. Go and get him.
Yeah.
But of course, that wasn't the case because, no, he's maybe not. I don't know. He's maybe
not sexy enough. Let's say it as it is. He's not sexy enough. I love Sean Dyche. He will say it as well. It's the same as Allardyce has said it over the years.
To be fair, even his missus said he wasn't sexy enough. And Dyche holds his hands up.
But it's true. You're spot on. And look, Everton seem to have gone in a different direction, and they're doing brilliantly under Carlo Ancelotti this season. But they've gone down a different route. He could have got the Everton job 3 years ago before Marco Silva, but he. Fair play to him, stayed loyal, and probably did have offers. He could have, I'm sure, taken the Aston Villa job at one stage. You'd imagine that Dyche is the kind of guy that's just, and you know him better than me, but is waiting for that opportunity. And he doesn't need to rush it because it has to be perfect for him. He has to have that level of control. And there aren't many clubs now that you can go to where you still have that control. So he has to think long and hard, doesn't he?
And also, Will, go to a club with the potential to do better than what he's done.
Yeah.
Now, you've got to say, with the greatest respect to what happened at Burnley, and is happening right now at Burnley, that Derby, with a takeover, with the funds that might be available, Derby could easily, surpass anything he's done at Burnley if he gets the opportunity and gets the reins to do what he wants to do. Because Derby's a big football club, big football base, great facilities.
Yeah.
I think of Derby a little bit as a Leeds. I still see Derby as quite a big...
giant.
Catchment area of football fans, etc., in an area where you've got the likes of, Forest just down the road, and Leicester not far away, etc. And I throw Villa in there. I know it's kind of A50 up that way, but you've only got Burton and then into Birmingham, etc. Leicester down that side. So there's in terms of what jobs are available for Sean Dyche to get, that when he leaves Burnley, he will actually do better than he's done at Burnley, which will be a big job, my goodness, because the job he's done keeping Burnley in the Premiership has been unbelievable.
And let's be honest, Al, he's never going to stay somewhere as long as he has been at Burnley, even if you are Sean Dyche. He's been there 8 years. You go to a derby, maybe really exciting, you spend a bit of money, you get them into the Premier League. When you've got owners like that, there's a volatility around it, isn't there? And you're never going to Sean Dyche for 8 years. So he'll know that, but maybe he'll want to go somewhere where he thinks he can have another 8-year stint. That, to me, could have been an Aston Villa, but Dean Smith seems to have turned the corner there as well.
Yeah, he did, and I would imagine surely Villa must have had a thinking cap on that Sean would have been a good fit. But to get back to the question, mate, it looks as though Derby might be a fit for him, because I can see a potential in Derby that obviously the new owners would also see the potential in. And you just said something there that I always forget. 8 years as a manager at a football club is a long time.
Mm.
First and foremost, to be 8 years, you have to be successful. Now, Dyche's success is the fact that he spends no money, or he doesn't spend no money. That's not fair.
Minimal.
He spends a little money in terms of what Premier Division clubs spend, and he keeps them in the Premier Division. Unbelievable. I mean, absolutely astonishing.
And gets them up when he's gone down. Let's not forget that as well.
When down, absolutely gets them back there, and and Burnley can't believe they're lucky he's the manager. But it might be the point where even Sean's thinking, I can't do any more. I genuinely can't do the miracles. I mean, if I don't get any money to spend and bring in players that he wants to bring in, because what I said when he said he was a little bit more vocal on the negativity side of what he wanted to do at Burnley, I thought, which means he must have had 1, 2, 3, 4 players lined up, and the finances weren't there to bring them to the club because they've obviously put the kibosh on it. Mm. I'm thinking, Dyche's leaving Burnley. My first thought. He's not gone yet, and they've had a couple of good runs there. They've got a couple of good results with their game in hand. They're back out of the bottom 3, etc., etc. But in my head, I'm thinking, I think Sean's already. In my opinion, he's kind of checked out from the Burnley scenario, and I think he's thinking about other jobs. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'll tell you who I'm a massive fan of. Alan McInally. And apart from
I couldn't do that job.
No, I've moved on from the Burnley job and the Derby job. I'm just talking in general. And also, I'm a massive fan of Declan Rice, right? Oh. And I'll tell you why. And I'm thinking even selfishly here as a Manchester City fan. I think he'd be brilliant, even at City, in that sitter, that deeper role. Would I swap him for Rodri right now? I'd drive Rodri down to West Ham, to be honest. Come over. And we can't do that. We're in Tier 4, so we can't do that at the moment. But maybe in the January window when things change. Declan Rice seems, doesn't it, potentially that he's destined for Chelsea, to go back to Chelsea. He spent 8 years there in that Chelsea academy. 8 years is a long time, isn't it, as a kid? I think he came to West Ham in 2014, hence why he's best mates with Mason Mount. They grew up together. The families are best friends. They go on holiday together. They play well in the England team together. I was at Chelsea against West Ham, watched them two come up against each other. And all right, West Ham in the end got schooled. It was never a 3-0 game. It was a harsh scoreline. But Declan Rice was a shining light in that West Ham team that was beaten. His passing was outrageous. I was sat next to Jeff Shreves, and I know Sky was saying that, I can't remember, was it Carragher was saying that it was Scholes-like passing. And it was spot on. The diagonals, the kind of wanting the ball the whole time. It just reminded me of a big, stronger, taller Paul Scholes. The guy's 21 years old. He's got wing mirrors on. He seems that he can pivot in any position in midfield, and he's getting bigger, but he's not getting bigger and he's not bulking up where he's, losing a bit of pace, a bit of sharpness. He still looks like a sort of a primed athlete. He's got that strength now. I mean, how much do you reckon Declan Rice is worth right now?
200 million. I'm serious. He is. And I know you like Foden, and I like Mason Greenwood, and you've mentioned Mason Mount, and we've got Harry Winks, and we've got Chilwell at fullback, and all the young players. He is the best young player in the Premiership by a shooting mile. He is absolutely unbelievable. And incidentally, you're talking about going back to Chelsea. I'm going to throw in City, United, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, Juventus. That's how good he is. That's where I think he's a chance of ending up as well. He is by far. There is no way. Okay, let's be a little bit more serious. 200 million.
He's at least 100, isn't he?
I was going to say 100 and okay. Jadon Sancho. What was it they wanted? 100 and
I think they would have taken
million euros.
110, 120 million they wanted in euros. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm saying minimum 118 million pounds for Declan Rice for West Ham to even be interested in letting the boy go.
Yeah.
Honest to God. Future England captain in a heartbeat. Honestly, I think he's that good. And it sounds as though I'm going over the top because Moisey's my mate. I quite like West Ham. I've spoken to McAvenny. I've spoken to Tony Cotty and to Gailey, to Tony Gale, and some of the older boys at West Ham, and they're all like, the boys are unbelievable. Now, we talk about Declan Rice Sorry, we talk about Van Dijk being a Rolls Royce. On my life, he is a Rolls Royce of a football player, Declan Rice.
Yeah.
And at 21 years old, what he's done so far, just wait to see the boy when he's 24, 25.
Well, look,
He
I'll tell
will
you what,
be unbelievable.
on your list, you didn't even have Liverpool there. Can you imagine sticking him in front of Van Dijk in that number 4 role?
Well, I think that will be unfair to the rest of the Premier Division if he goes there, because Liverpool will win it for the next 10 years. But I genuinely think, in terms of where he's going to go next, yes, the Premiership. Chelsea's a situation in his head when he's been there as a young player. There obviously will still be something, even with the family, possibly. You know, don't go, Declan. Go to Chelsea. Chelsea have money to buy him. Of that, there is absolutely no question, and they've already gone out and spent money on Ziyech and Werner and Havertz and Thiago Silva, etc. Anyway, this season, so they want to strengthen and bring in players. But I do genuinely think the likes of Bayern and Real Madrid and Barcelona and PSG and Juventus, they will want the best players in the world and have a pocket to go in and pull out 120 million.
Yeah,
I think he's going to be involved in that kind of market, rather than it'll just be a Premier Division team he goes to. Boy's a super football player.
It's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because obviously his heart is at Chelsea. He spent so much of his time there. He's a Chelsea fan. You kind of think, I've said this to you many times, Al, don't go back. I've done it. Been to a couple of ex-girlfriends. Yeah. Don't do that. You don't go there. But look, he may be thinking along those lines. It didn't work out there. I didn't get a chance. But you know, Frank, for example, in 2014, if Frank Lampard was the Chelsea manager, he would not have let Declan Rice go to West Ham.
No.
And you have to feel for the West Ham fans, because they've seen this all before as well. They've got a gem. They've got an absolute super talent. But they did with Rio Ferdinand. They did with Frank Lampard. They did with Joe Cole. They did with, I mean, look, you can name another 4 or 5 players that all went on and left. And inevitably, they're going to lose him. So what do? Just enjoy him while they can?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, genuinely, I go back to expectations within a football club and expectations of fans. Now, as much as West Ham fans always think, you know, we play the right football. You know, you're going back to Brooking and etc. You know, nice football, good midfield players. Even though, go back to Alan Devonshire, you probably don't remember Alan. Lovely football player, beautiful balance, and a really wonderful player. And players like that, and the expectancy to, or rather the thought that West Ham are a big enough football club to keep a gem like that is pie in the sky stuff. It's just not going to happen. And incidentally, the owners of the football club, when you have a player, when you're a West Ham director or owner of that club, if you can get 120 million for a player that's only 21 years old, I think it's a no-brainer, to be honest. I genuinely do. To keep him at the football club, how can they possibly keep a player like that has ambitions to win something? And West Ham, in the likelihood to win the Premiership, would have to spend an inordinate amount of money to get anywhere near the top 6. As good a job as David Moyes is doing, by the way. Because again, we spoke about Burnley shopping in a particular tier of football players. West Ham are doing the same thing. But to get Declan Rice to West Ham in the first place was a proper coup. But they're going to reap the rewards of selling him on to someone and wishing him hopefully all the best and going and becoming the player that I would imagine everybody in football realises exactly what he is.
Yeah, look, it's amazing as well. I remember Declan Rice's debut. I remember him scoring his first goal for West Ham, and he looked like a bit of a, not scrawny. He's always been a big, full set lad, but he's pumped up, as I said to you there. And then I'm thinking, I'm watching that game at Stamford Bridge last night, and he's screaming at everyone on his team, screaming, even at Mark Noble, who he's kind of sharing the captaincy with. Obviously, Noble had the armband, and he will be the captain because Noble doesn't start as much. So it'll be really interesting to see that January window. If Chelsea are as aggressive even in January to go, bang, here we go. We know how much he's worth. We want him. Let's get it done before, like you say, a Bayern or a Liverpool or a City come and snatch him. But let's dip into the Championship for a little bit. Okay. Watford's manager, Vladimir Ivic, sacked, right? He was sacked. Is there a coincidence in this? He dropped Troy Deeney. We know how much Troy Deeney means to Watford and how much the fans love him and so on. But Troy Deeney had scored 3 in 3. He dropped him, and then they lose, and he gets sacked. Have you ever fallen out with a manager like that? Have you ever been on a run of form when you've been dropped, and it's kind of, even the board or the board of directors are like, why are you dropping McInally? And do you think that is a coincidence?
I never really. I'm going to try to remember. Villa was probably the longest run without a goal because I got about 14 or 15 by the time we got to the middle of November, and I didn't score until sort of Boxing Day or something it was. But yeah, but as a football player, certainly as a striker, when you're not scoring goals, you need to be helping the football club and need to be, coming in and assists, etc., etc. And that was always part of my game that was all right. Falling out with a manager, I never really did. I genuinely didn't in terms of, like that. And incidentally, as much as Troy Deeney, when I think of Watford, I think of Troy Deeney.
Yeah.
But even Troy knows he's been injured. He's not been the same. He's not given enough as what he normally gives to them, even though he scored 3 and 3. But if he's fit, then you kind of need him in the team. You want him in the team as a mouth, as an encourager, as a captain. So Ivic getting the sack, listen, that's another thing when I think about Watford. So Watford, my old mentor, manager Graham Taylor, Elton John, London, change of manager. Who cares? They've changed another manager. Oh, really? Yeah. You get up in the morning, you're like, what are you going to have?
About it,
I'll have a coffee.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Troy said, do you want the job? They said, Troy, maybe you fancy being player manager. And he was like, why would I do that when I know I'd get sacked after 2 minutes? He even said it himself.
It's like getting up in the morning, I'm just going to say, have a cup of coffee and a bit of toast, and somebody says, Watford sacked their manager, and you're like, oh, I'll have another bit of toast. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Okay. And just thinking, if you're a Watford fan, you're thinking, more instability, more changes in the boardroom, more changes in the manager, even players that are going to Watford are like, I wonder how long he's going to be here for. They need to get rid of that. And, listen, Troy will do his best to make sure they finish in a position in the Championship that, everybody will be happy. But, Watford's directorship and ownership have to decide, right, this guy gets the job, and if we get relegated, we keep him in the job until we get some stability at the football club. And by the way, Troy Deeney's still an important player for Watford. Don't worry about that. So if you're dropping him after 3 and 3, I would imagine that upstairs, and you lose the game. Upstairs, directors are thinking, nah, we can't keep him, and they change the manager again.
What about Stoke, Al? Because I know you watch a lot of Stoke in the Championship as well. They're kind of
better than you think, by the way.
Yeah, but they're going under the radar, aren't they? I'd say Michael O'Neill, when he came in, and I remember, he came in off the back of, a couple of managers. Paul Lambert had a little stint there, hadn't he? Gary Rowett had a go, and it just wasn't clicking, having come down from the Premier League. They finished 15th last season, 16th the season before, obviously 15th under Michael O'Neill. But they're right in the mix now, just on the cusp of the playoffs. They've got Kevin Campbell's son, Tyrese, who's banging in goals for them. He's got 7 for the season. They could be a sort of quiet one to watch, couldn't they?
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. I watched Blackburn the other day, who didn't play well, won the game, and they've got players in the team that can really hurt you, Blackburn. And when we looked at I looked at the fixtures and I was like, oh, they're going to Stoke. That's a toughie. I'm not touching that. I'm not, when I looked at our little accumulators that we do in our group chat, etc., and I thought, well, I'm not even going near that because I don't know what's going to happen. Stoke turn them over. And all of a sudden you think, well, everybody's thinking that Blackburn have got a chance of promotion. So I'm thinking, maybe the job that Michael's doing so far is keeping them, nobody's speaking about Stoke. And then I saw the result and I thought, I need to look at the next 3 results that Stoke have because they're genuinely under the radar. Nobody's talking about them. Still a huge football club. And incidentally, you and I have been talking about clubs with the ability to spend money. They have the backing of a lot of money and a family that's run the club for a long, long time. So the Coates family, I was going to really say the Bet365 stuff and all that because they're heavily involved with that side of the sponsorship. But certainly the job Michael's done so far has been, you can say the best job he ever did was with Northern Ireland, but if he takes them back to the Premiership, Stoke City, it'll be astonishingly good.
Right, here we go. Let's have a little bit of fun just before Christmas. Let's pick out a 5-a-side Premier League team. I know we had a little chat with you before. You got a bit cocky. You thought you've already done this. You thought it's done. There's no one could beat my team. Unleash your 5-a-side McInally team for me.
Right, so we're having 5 outfield players and a goalie.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've gone for a goalie you could play up top, but it's up to you.
Oh, you've gone for somebody like, oh, look, he can pass the ball. If you're a goalkeeper, these are important to you. Your feet help, but these are important. I've gone Nick Pope because he's been fantastic. Nick Pope.
Okay. Nick Pope and
great goalkeeper. Another goalkeeper that's under the radar, by the way. The boy is fantastic.
Yeah. So he's in your five-a-side team. Okay. So go on, the other four then. What are you going positionally here? I'm thinking a five-a-side pitch is half the size of a tennis court, Al.
Well, so we're going to pick 5 outfield players. So goalkeeper, I'm going to go 2-2-1. All right. So I've gone Thiago Silva, Declan Rice, because he's my favourite and can do everything. Strong. Yeah. Thiago Silva, you always need a defender, somebody that's going to always be our little defensive-minded there. Yeah. In front of that, I've gone Sadio Mane and N'Golo Kante. Kante will be everywhere.
Yeah.
Sadio Mane does the defensive job, will score his goals. And up top, one of the best goal scorers in the Premier Division, Mason Greenwood. Goal scoring machine in a five-a-side team.
Okay, hold on. So you've got 5 outfield players and a goalkeeper?
Yes.
Okay.
If I'm dropping
that kind of defeats the object of five-a-side, Al, but I don't know in Scotland if you have 6.
In that case, Silva's out, he's too old. I'll keep Declan Rice. So I'll go Rice and Kante, and N'Golo Kante, Sadio Mane, Mason Greenwood. Goal machine.
Okay, well, I'm taking you on here. I'm taking you right on. I'm going Ederson in goal because basically he's a centre-back and he's a great goalkeeper. You don't think he's got these. He's got 5 of these and he's got 6 of these down here as well. Legs I'm talking about. I'm going to go for VVD, right, if he's fit. This is if everyone's fit. VVD, as you say, Rolls-Royce, but also he's an absolute baller. I can imagine him on a 5-a-side pitch. VVD, KDB, Salah and Kane. Good night.
Oh, but seriously, I'm going to go, we're 3 up at half-time.
You will if you've got 6 players.
Do you know why? Because Ederson is forgotten he's a goalie and everybody's turned round and Mason Greenwood's tapping another one into the net. And the wee man's running away like that. United!
I like it. Did you ever play a bit of 5-a-side back in the day as well?
Oh, I used to love it. I mean, that was Friday mornings, 5-a-side games and things. That was fantastic. I used to love all the 5-a-side games. And even when I finished, there was a couple of times where I used to play with some of the lads, although my knee was done. But then I used to love the 5-a-sides and all the stuff, etc. And I used to play. There was this soccer 6s actually for Scotland and Villa and stuff, which was so good fun. Yeah, such good fun. But there's nothing better when the gaffer says, right, we've done partner play, we've done corners, we've done free kicks against. Right, let's have a quick 20-minute 5-a-side. And everybody's like, yes, let's get it on and training. It's brilliant.
Mate, take the knee out of it. Do you reckon you could still do bits on a 5-a-side pitch?
Seriously, I said Declan Rice was worth 120 million. If I was still fit, I'd be still worth 120 million.
Is the answer I wanted.
Exactly.
Look, and I don't know how it's been a tough week for you. Some might say there was a mugging. Some might call it Muggsy Malone. You got some grief on Twitter. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, last week
the relegation stuff.
Saw you responded to that. Like Sheffield United, West Brom, and Fulham. You said, who, to be fair, I think you're spot on with at the moment. Although I'm still not convinced. Actually, no, I don't agree with West Brom. But anyway, this is your 30 seconds to respond to your mugging.
I can't even remember the boy's name. But anyway,
I think he's called Red.
He was a bit strong, and I'm like, don't call me pal, mate. That's something I ain't. And I'd quite like a bit of interaction with the lads, as long as it's a football race. They went, he basically went, what are you talking about? Shit. Oh, you're a real good pundit. Sheffield United with 1 point. I'm like, well, who's your 3? Anyway, he went, Sheffield United. I was like, so yeah. So who's your other 2 then? And I said, look, I think West Brom will struggle, and I think Fulham are gone. He's like, Leeds and Brighton. So there was a lot of other people piled in and gave it, Brighton, Leeds, have you been drinking, etc., etc. So he went, okay, big man, I bet you a 5. And I said, yeah, okay, no problem. So he seems to have calmed down a little bit, which I'm quite happy with. Don't get me stick on Twitter, by the way. You'll get a tap on the shoulder for a couple of pals of mine. And he's gone Brighton, Leeds, and Sheffield. What would you think?
I don't think Brighton are going down. I don't think Leeds are going down.
So basically, I'll be able to say to him at the end, keep your job, whatever you do. Maybe punditry's not for you. Give me my £5, and I think you'll find the big man will be right at the end of the year.
And that is something we are going to snip up and keep hold of until May. And then I hope this battle intensifies over the next few months as well.
No, I don't. I tweet every now and again. Listen, Alan McInally, Twitter, it's me. I'll bring you into the tweeting scenario here. Who's your 3 to go down? I forget.
You don't follow me, by the way. I went to send you a message the other day. It doesn't even follow me. We're supposed to be pals. We're supposed to be partners. Partners in crime.
I follow you.
A disgrace. It's a disgrace. It doesn't even follow me. Anyway, what did you ask me?
Who's your 3 to go down?
Three to go down. I think Sheffield United. I think you're spot on with that. And do you
Oh,
know what?
what kind of pundit are you?
But look, you asked me this last week, and it hasn't changed apart from the fact that even that West Brom got pumped in the West Midlands derby after Sam had what 2 minutes on a training pitch with his new players. I think West Brom are going to stay up. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I just can't bet against the fact that Sam has done it with maybe not worse teams, but he's come in, at Palace, at Everton when they were struggling. Look what he did with Bolton, and they should have been right down there. He kept Blackburn in the league. He's done it with, this is his 8th Premier League team, and most of them have been strugglers. And how can we forget the Sunderland team as well? So, long answer, I think Sheffield United. Do you know what? I watched Fulham Brighton the other day, and I just thought, watching those two teams, they were both better than Arsenal. And I'm not going to throw Arsenal down, but I just thought, I'm not going to throw Arsenal down. But I don't want bricks coming through my window, Arsenal fans. But I just don't. I think the way that Fulham and Brighton play, I couldn't see them going down to the Championship. They've turned the corner, Fulham, for me. I think that Fulham could surprise a few people. So who then are we pulling in? Because I don't think I know Dyche's not going to take Burnley down. And then what? Then you're looking at kind of bringing Leeds down into the mix or Newcastle down into the mix. So long answer, I have no idea apart from Sheffield United. They can't do it with 1 point from 14 games. That would be, it would be a bigger miracle than anything we've seen in the Premier League.
I thought you were going right up to Man City to bring them into the scenario there. I was beginning to get worried there. Listen,
the way we played in the Manchester derby, I'll have us in the Championship next season.
Yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a conflict with the lads out there whoever they thinks they're a manager and they're a pundit and whatever else they are. I don't think I'll be far away. Let me know on Twitter who your 3 to go down will be. He's went for Sheffield United. At least I've given you 3.
Let the games begin. Right, we're going to try and sort out a same-game multi here, Al, with Betfair. Sam Rosbottom's here with us, as always. We're going to look, Sam, at the Leicester against Manchester United game, which is the 12:30 kickoff on Boxing Day. I think what we've established from football since it restarted is that anybody can beat anyone, and the only thing that's consistent are Liverpool. They're the only good team around at the moment. But we're going to pick this game, which is it's a tricky one to go with. I'll kick us off, Al, and Sam, if you're happy with. I think there are going to be goals in this one. I think looking at Manchester United last time out against Leeds, and then obviously Leicester going to Tottenham and schooling Spurs, I'm going to go for, if you're happy with this, over 2.5 goals in the match, Sam.
Sounds good. I think you're spot on there. You look at the recent form, and although they've leaked a few goals, they've certainly scored a few as well in their past 2 matches. And it's that counter-attack, isn't it? The pace of Rashford, it's just absolutely blistering and it's tearing teams apart. So, yeah, I think the likes of Leicester have had some good results, going to Spurs and winning convincingly as well at 2-0 is no mean feat, I don't think, especially at the new Spurs stadium. So, yeah, they're going to be up for it. They're going to want to, stay where they are in the league, if not push even higher. So, yeah, I think that's a good shout. Goals in the game.
Yeah. What else can we throw in there, Al? What do you think? What do you think about this one?
Well, you've got to pick. I was going to say you either pick Leicester to win or United to win. Let's not sit on the fence. United's last few games, top of my head, 3-1 West Ham, 3-1 Paris Saint-Germain. It was only the 0-0 with Man City that probably was under a 3-goal thriller, to be honest, at time. They scored loads of goals, Man United, then, of course, they get 6 against Leeds. So 2.5 for me in a heartbeat. You could have pushed it to 3.5, but let's not push the ball because we're hopeless when we start betting anyway. So I'm going to go, and genuinely, I think there'll be loads of people will tell me on Twitter, you could have went for Leicester to win for the same reasons as you've gone for Man United to win. But United are in a nice little run at the moment, and I'm going to go with the confidence that they've got just now, and we'll go over 2.5 goals then, and United to win. So I'm hoping Betfair will give us something on that one.
Yeah, so just looking at that, obviously, it's a massive game. Leicester second, United third. Leicester pushing Liverpool, but I see where you're coming from. United have got that confidence. The focus is well and truly on the Premier League after the Champions League disappointment, which I've got to mention again. So looking at our same game multi on the Betfair Sportsbook, where we're combining 2 or more selections within the same match in one bet, we've got United to win over 2.5 goals. That's coming out at 3.31. But don't forget as well, there are a number of different other selections you can add in there, such as cards, corners, goal scorers, shots on target, etc. It's all available on the Sportsbook.
Yeah, I think exactly. You could throw in easily a Bruno Fernandes assist, a Jamie Vardy goal, the way that those two are playing. Do you know what? It's got the feeling, hasn't it, of that game at the end of last season where Manchester United had to go to the King Power to win to get the Champions League. And they're both in really good form. So it should be a good game. Like you say, Sam, second against third with the chance to close that gap on Liverpool as well. Top man, Sam. Enjoy that one. See you next time. Right, that's the same game multi, Al. Let's talk about, if we have to, an ACCA. It's been a long, dark, lonely, bleak year. The only things that are certain in 2020, death, taxes, other things, and McInally and Perry to pick a failure every single week on the ACCA. Right, Sam, help us out here. Okay, look, just if you don't think it's a good pick, you got to tell us.
All right.
And look,
listen, I've got to make a point. I did say Oldham have got a cracking away record last time out, but did you listen to me?
I know.
You know,
I'm 2-1 up. I kept an eye on it. I was at Millwall against Forest, and I was keeping an eye on Newport, and they were 2-1 up at one stage, Al, and I thought, good shout, McInally, and then it was a late comeback.
Late goals. Oldham are absolute on form for late goals at the minute.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Right, that's in the past. Forget about it.
That's done now.
Future. Come on, we're looking ahead to. We've got 2 more chances in 2020 with an ACCA, and then we're on to a fresh new year. So it's a new us in 21. Okay, right. This week, bearing in mind we're looking at 3:00 kickoffs as well, so we're limited to what we're picking from. Excuses. Let's go for your old boys, Aston Villa, to beat Crystal Palace. And I know that's a bit of a dodgy one already, because sometimes there's a bit of a trend when Villa have a good game and they have a good performance, clean sheet, and they've actually done that back-to-back now. But then they tend to have a little dodgy one down the road. Palace, you're not sure what you're going to get with them, but I'm going to go Palace to be beaten by Aston Villa. And then I'm going to dip into the Championship. I've been listening to a lot of the radio, a lot of your station, Sam, a bit of Talk Sport and stuff. And look, I hear Neil Warnock, and there's a good thing going on up in the northeast there. And I think Middlesbrough are going to beat Rotherham on Boxing Day at home. Rotherham struggling, Middlesbrough just about in the playoff places. So that's my penny's worth for the ACCA. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I think you're not far off there, to be honest. Look, just taking the Championship side first, Middlesbrough, three games on the bounce they've won now. Warnock's clearly doing something right. It's always a bit of a punt, isn't it, changing managers within the season? But when you get someone in with that experience who just knows how to get results, then clearly it's, the short term is paying off at the minute. So Middlesbrough against Rotherham at home, they're the favourites at 4-6. Rotherham 4-1 to go up there and win. 5-2 the draw. Looking at the Premier League match, Villa against Palace. Palace, got absolutely spanked last time out. They're going to want to put up some sort of fight and to show that they can redeem themselves. However, Villa are in good form. Great win against West Brom last time out, 3-0. You mentioned as well those clean sheets, which is so important to teams in the Premier League. Villa are the favourites at 9-10 in this one. Palace 11-4, and the draw 13-5.
Yeah, Al, you've got one from the Prem, one from the Champ as well, haven't you?
Yeah, but just before we do that, I mean, I watched Birmingham Borough. I'm delighted you've gone for them because they were really good. And not only that, at 1-0, because Birmingham took the lead. Marcus Bettinelli has a great save. It could have went 2-0 Birmingham. And then the likes of Assombalonga and George Saville and Sam Morsey, and especially Marvin Johnson on the left-hand side, all of a sudden they looked as if they got goals in them, and they were really good. So I'm delighted you've gone for Borough. So unfortunately so far, I'm delighted with the Villa, naturally, up the Villa. And I'll go Borough. Okay, I may as well just stay in the Premiership then, and I'll go Southampton because I think they've been really good. I mean, really, really good against Fulham. And I can't go for Fulham because I said they're going to get relegated. So I'm going to go Southampton to beat Fulham, and then the kiss of death, because every time I go anywhere near the top of the Championship, I put the heebie-jeebies on somewhere. But I'm going to go Swansea to go to QPR, because Swansea are in third and QPR are probably just above relegation. So Southampton, both aways, Sam. Southampton and Swansea.
Yeah, I think, both of us, myself and Will, wanted to avoid the City-Southampton game last week. And Southampton, we're very unlucky, I think, in the end, not to get something from that game. So they'll be looking to get back to winning ways. They're 5-4 to go to Fulham and win. Fulham, who, although they've not necessarily been winning, they've been drawing. So you can say they've turned a corner somewhat. And against Newcastle, Newcastle fans will be disappointed they didn't take all 3 points with Fulham going down to 10 men. So clearly they're getting some steel, Fulham, and they're being resilient. 11-5 to win at home against Southampton. The draw 9-4. Looking at the Swansea game, like you mentioned, they are up there in the Championship. They're battling it out. They had a disappointing result recently against Derby, but they put that behind them last time out. The 7-5 to win in this one. QPR 19-10 and the draw 9-4. So all in all, the fourfold then, Villa, Southampton, Swansea and Middlesbrough is coming out at just over 19-1.
Yeah. Well,
nice.
Look, may the Akka and the Christmas gods look down on us and shine on us, and all the previous McInallys that have trod the turf, and Perry's up the sky, and Rosbottoms. Come on, we can do this. It's 2020. It's been an awful year. We're going to finish it off with 2 winning Akkas before 2021. Right, Al, that's it for the week.
All right.
Good show. Lots of good talking points, and I like it. You started a battle on Twitter. We need more sort of interactions with people on there. Feel free to get in touch and troll us. The more trolling, the better. No news is bad news. You're in tier 2 as well. I'm in tier 4. I'm locked down. Christmas is cancelled. Mate, you're out on the town.
I'm, I don't really go out in the town anymore, but yes, I can move around, let's just say. I can move around and do bits and pieces. And hey, listen, just make sure everybody keeps safe and stuff, this tier 4 thing, and the government, we all have to kind of do our thing. So hopefully we'll all be safe and we can some kind of resemblance of Christmas.
Yeah, well, I'll be, I think of me on my own Christmas Day, no tree, no family. They all live abroad, just me and my thoughts. Al, mate,
listen, I always think of you on your own anyway. Oh, woe is me. I will.
Mate, have a great Christmas. Well,
thanks,
for the new year, and some crackers to look forward to on Boxing Day. We'll speak to you guys next week. Have a good one.